Tom Watt here for TTC Boxing in association with IFL TV and KO Clothing. Joined once again by main event and Fox Sports presenter Ben Damon. Thanks for joining us, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
A few things to talk about. Been a while since we last caught up. Start off with, I suppose, the more serious side of it, the more serious news we've had. Obviously, the whole of the boxing world, particularly here in Australia, was shook by the news of Davey Browne passing away after his loss in Ingleburn last Friday. That comes 6 months pretty much to the day of Braden Smith passing away, another boxer here in Australia. Puts into perspective the kind of sacrifice and risk these guys are taking. Just really sad news for boxing and Dave's family. What can the boxing world kind of take from this news, and what can we learn going forward to prevent these kind of things?
I guess that what you can take out of it is that tragedy is just around the corner in boxing, like it is in life. I'm sure you have, like I have, had friends killed in terrible circumstances. I had a friend who was killed serving in Afghanistan only a few years ago. Friends killed in car accidents. It's terribly tragic when it happens, and those who step into the boxing ring, they put themselves at risk as well. And yeah, Davey Browne, I'd seen him fight. He was a very talented fighter. I remember his fight with Billy Dibb, where it was only stopped because of a cut.
Yeah.
He was holding his own there against Billy Dibb, who went on to win a world title. And Davey Browne was winning this fight the other night, and yeah, just a terrible event. So sad. He had a young family, and in terms of what boxing can look at going forward, in this instance, unlike potentially with Braden Smith, all of the medical staff were present. They got him to Liverpool Hospital, which is a very respected hospital, particularly with regards to brain injuries. So it really was a terrible accident, and I know that the boxing community in Australia is in mourning. I know that there is an opportunity for people to donate to his young family, 2 children and his wife. And that tally, I believe, just grew to over 30,000 on the link that is available at the moment. But also there's talk through the Grange. I've been speaking to the Grange about putting on a fundraiser evening for the family, and details for that will come through pretty shortly as well.
Absolutely, and details for that fundraiser, if you want to donate, will be below this video as well. And like you say, it's a risk these guys take, and every sport, I suppose, has those risks. And it's just, I suppose, why these guys get paid what they do, and in certain cases, particularly at domestic level, nowhere near enough for the risks they're taking, really. Oh,
most certainly. Yeah, you do. Well, no amount of money can make up for something like this occurring, and you just don't expect it to happen, particularly at Ingleburn RSL on a Friday night against a Filipino opponent who he was expected to beat, Davey Browne. It's just a terribly unfortunate and tragic fluke what occurred, and yeah, I'm sure that the boxing community will pull around the family and do everything that can be done at the moment, which, well, it's comparatively little, isn't it, because someone's gone. It is terribly sad.
Absolutely, but yeah, the positive is it does bring everyone together, and the show of support these families had already is obviously.
And the funeral will be this Friday. I don't know when this video is going up, but this Friday the funeral at 10 AM in Cairns, and the details will be around the internet.
Absolutely, yeah, I'll make sure I share the details on this video as well. Next issue, not quite as serious, but I suppose ultimately it could have been Peter Quillin and Michael Zerafa the next day. Now Zerafa, obviously a really talented young fighter, up and coming, 17-1 going into that fight, but should he have been in the ring with Peter Quillin? It was a horrible KO. Hospitalised afterwards. What
he fought so well too, Michael Zerafa. The first few rounds, he actually caught Peter Quillin with a few shots. I got up and watched this very early in the morning, and with what had occurred with Davey Browne and the reports that were coming out of the hospital as to how grave the situation was, when he got caught with that right hand, and it was a sickening shot. It was a terrible knockout, because he was sort of in the exact wrong position. You did sort of fear the worst just for a moment there, and I know that those at ringside, I actually spoke to a couple of people who were there within his team who said that perhaps the doctors were a little overcautious about how they treated him in the ring. Perhaps he was okay to walk out. Which, you can't criticise them for being overly cautious, particularly in light of what they would have heard had just occurred as well on the other side of the world involving another Australian. But whether he should have been in the ring, probably not, but you can understand why he was keen to take this fight, and when you saw the way that he acquitted himself, you can certainly understand why he was keen to take this fight, because he didn't know at what level his skills were. He caught Peter Quillin with some shots. Imagine if he had scored a knockout, the world's his oyster all of a sudden, so you can't blame him for getting in there. in terms of the PBC and the mismatches which they seem to be putting up on a fairly regular basis, it's not ideal for a fledgling promotional enterprise essentially. But you know, they've got to make fights, and they're trying to get blokes in, and he did all right before he got knocked out.
And yeah, they've kind of the first 3-4 shows that the PBC put on were all 50-50s, really close. They seem to have fallen back into the groove of, but that old school kind of building these fighters up, making sure they get 4 or 5 wins in a row before they go on to these big title fights. And I suppose that's something that maybe we have to see in boxing, people to build these titles up. But do we want to see it? We'd rather see people taking losses like they do in the UFC to build their career and take those more exciting
fights. Yeah, as we've spoken about before, I'd rather see a situation where a loss wasn't career-ending. It wasn't something that set you back so far. The UFC model is great in that instance. It doesn't work in most instances, the UFC model, certainly for the fighters, but it does in terms of a loss, and a good loss can actually help your career. It's fine. So yeah, you'd like to see these fighters taking more risks, but Floyd Mayweather has a lot to answer for, because defended that zero so vigorously, and that became all he was about. And so there's so many who are trying to follow in those footsteps. But yeah, I'd like to see more losses on records and draws and great fights.